This is my at least second, I think, talk that I've done for Gowling's. The last was in November. I'd like to usually start off by seeing what mix of people we have in the audience, different levels of experience in the blockchain space, and try to get some little understanding of what people are doing here and what they're hoping to get out of these types of events. So how many people here own cryptocurrencies? Wow, it's strange. Every few months the percentages are just consistently going up. I remember doing some talks a few years ago with people such as yourselves. My first talks for law firms, and crickets. Nobody's touched the thing. And how many people own other altcoins or Ethereum or other similar ones like that? So pretty much the same. How many people have been to other events, other conferences for the blockchain space? So quite a few. And how about somebody who wants to be bold enough to kind of let me know or a few things about what you're hoping to get out of events like this, or what it is you're looking for to be learning about the space? Because I did an event a few days ago, and there were about 400 people there, and I asked that question, and no one responded, nothing. It was for a number of bankers. It was for a different kind of crew of people than we've seen the progression of over the years. I started doing events in 2012, and there's quite a difference in the different sectors that people are involved in. This is what usually happens when you have disruptive technologies. You have people that are first getting into it because they understand technology, they understand computers, and you see this shift, or you see these people who are dressed in jogging suits, or dressed in they got their concert T-shirts, things like that. And we've seen this progression over the years, and I'm sure other people in the room like Sonny and Manny, guys you'll hear from later, who have seen those progressions as well, and it's really interesting. And so what are you guys looking to get out of something like this? What is something that I can answer? What questions that you might have? And I've got some other things I'll be talking about, but can anybody kind of let me know what is it you like to know? What's interesting in the space? Or are you just here, you hear something, it's hot, maybe you want to make money in the space? Is that the big thing? You want to see how the sectors or what you're involved in how they're going to be disrupted? I hear that there's probably about 15% are lawyers here. Who here is a lawyer? Yeah, so that's about right. And who's here in finance? Pretty much the rest of them. So come on, someone be bold. What are you hoping to get out of these? What is it that interests you about this space? Yes?
I've got an e-commerce subscription box company. Built it up to $30 million US revenue in 3 years. We believe that we can tap into an ICO to create a jumped up loyalty program, a meaningful loyalty program to reward our audience members and our customers to further engage and promote our brand.
Yeah, definitely. I think what a lot of companies that are already established are kind of looking to do is saying, we've seen this go from a few developers doing projects, and now there's these ways to raise money. There's ways to actually bring capital and inject capital in, and ways to use something like a token or something similar to a cryptocurrency where you can actually prove authenticity of something and prove scarcity and be able to distribute it based on people being loyal to your product. So that's definitely something that's very interesting and people are looking at. Anybody else before I start going? Yes?
Yeah, I'm interested in the impact of various blockchain applications on the law. Privacy, for example, we have this idea that there's a data controller right now. Maybe there won't be a data controller with a blockchain type model for personal information. So it's really interesting for lawyers, and I'm in that group.
Yeah, and I think the applications and the general applications that people are going to be seeing coming from these technologies, which still very early right now, and really I believe not too much value that's really been created in the space yet, of real disruption in any industry yet, but it's going to be coming. But definitely, yeah, the applications. Maybe one more. Yes.
I'd love to hear where you're thinking the next version 3, 4 of blockchain is, what you see coming down the pipe as sort of the natural extension, and where you think that big disruption is going to hit timeline-wise.
Sure, and yeah, I can definitely touch on that. All right, so that's a good basis. Any maybe one more person or anything else you might? Yes.
I'm exploring blockchain, so I spent time in Waterloo, did
Okay.
PhD, and I met Usman. I'm using blockchain to decentralize the census.
Yeah.
So the census is what makes possible infrastructure, and I have the Colombian government asking me for a prototype. So basically, I build a product here. I spend time in California. I met the city of San Francisco, city of Palo Alto, and they told me just come back and we start.
Good. And
Consensus is what makes possible something we call corruption, because when you build a design PPP, private-public partnership, basically it's a whole bunch of lawyers with finances, and it happens in Colombia, it happens in many Latin American countries.
yeah, definitely a lot of.
Blockchain used to decentralize that very quick.
So yeah, tons of sectors, and it's good to see Waterloo. Some stuff finally coming out of Waterloo. It's been a few years, and I've been really surprised that I haven't seen much going on in the Waterloo space. But they've recently had an Ethereum hackathon, which had a few hundred hackers out there in Waterloo, and it's great to see the growth of this stuff. So definitely tons of sectors that are going to be disrupted, and tons of applications, and tons of use cases, and tons of people thinking that they're going to be coming in and being able to take a new model with their businesses, raise capital, figure out ways to create new efficiencies, as a lot of the services and a lot of non-value added participation between humans, which is kind of what this technology is enabling. It's disintermediation technology. It's enabling individuals to communicate and move value globally, instantly now, without needing third parties. And that's really the main breakthrough that happened, is when Bitcoin came on the scene in the late 2008, 2009. That's really what happened, is that for the first time ever, you had a way to prove something that's digital, to have something that's digital that couldn't be duplicated. That's the major breakthrough that happened. Prior to Bitcoin, every single thing that could be digital, and it's great for things such as music or documents, things like that, you can duplicate them and pass them around, and you can create copies, and it's amazing. But for applications such as currencies, it really doesn't work. If that would be the case, we'd have the issues like we've had with currencies in the past, before this technology came about, where I could have a digital dollar of something, and I could make 1 million copies of it, and I can send it all around the world, and that really defeats the purpose of a currency, one of the aspects of currency, which is scarcity, and never really worked. But when Bitcoin came on the scene, people think Bitcoin's used for different things, but that's really the problem that was solved, is that for the first time ever, you could own something digital, you could prove ownership of it, so you could actually hold it, figuratively speaking, you could actually own it, and you could send it to someone else, and now you don't have it anymore, and they do. And then what if that technology can be used to purchase things all around the world? And what if you could actually move it in the same way that you can move an email? Again, instantly, globally, without needing third parties in between, taking cuts and commissions and pieces of it. Think about wire transfers taking 5 days to go through potentially, and all the different people that it has to touch, and the way that it's going through across borders and all these things. So what if there was a currency or something where you didn't think about borders? What if it was permissionless, meaning that you didn't need to be onboarded in order to start using the system? What if you could actually have countries that don't have the financial institutions or financial services that we are so used to here? Well, what if those billions of people around the world that don't have those services could access, just via a phone and an internet connection, these technologies that enable them to move value and start having them enter the global marketplace? So that's really the first sign that I saw, and I got in 2012. I've been spending a couple of years digging into economics and really learning what had happened with the financial crisis, with the housing crisis, and started to look at some contrarian viewpoints of people that predicted these things back in the day. And by doing that, I started learning this new type of economics, which they call Austrian School of Economics, which is the opposite or kind of different than the Keynesian model, which is followed by most economists and most things. And that's kind of how our systems work, where there's a lot of money that flows into things. You get these booms and bust cycles, things correct, and it starts over again. And that's the type of thing that we're in even right now in the blockchain space. If you look at what happened in the dot-com bubble back in the day, in the late 90s, you had the internet emerging, and the internet, everybody was realizing, was disrupting everything to do with information movement. Anything from publications to postal service, anything where information was being flown, was being moved around the world. Now it can be done globally. You can now send an email instantly anywhere you wanted, bypassing a lot of the intermediaries. Well, the thing that happened there, of course, is it got really hot, people dumping money into it, things are blowing up eventually, things correct, and then the real value flows through. That's what happens in these type of movements, is things get really hot, people don't quite understand what it is, they start dumping in money, they see everybody else doing it, there's a fear of missing out, they're scared they're going to miss the boat, gets hot, and then there's all this non-value added flow in, where eventually you realize it's going to blow up, because if you're doing businesses or doing things that don't make any sense and really aren't creating value for people, or doing something that actually is creating value, eventually those things are going to be washed aside. But then you have the true value creators that will actually emerge. And this is what we've seen as well, because after 2000 until now, we've seen some major breakthroughs. We've seen the rise of things like social media. We've seen the rise of social publishing. All these things that over time, all of the actors that weren't creating value are basically gone. And then the true value creators actually emerge and push through. And that's what we've seen with the internet. Same thing's happening in this space right now. The blockchain space is the hottest thing out there. There's more money flowing in, way more than ever went into the dot-com bubble. You have these people that are trying to decipher what this is and learn what this thing is. And really what it is if we see that the internet disrupted everything to do with information, well, anything to do with value transfer is now getting disrupted. Because now you can move value just like you move information. And if the internet was developing the pipelines for the travel of information and travel of value, what we're going to see, I believe, and what we've seen is kind of an exponential growth of now having the pipelines where individuals can now flow value between one another anywhere around the world without needing a bank in between, without needing a government for currency's sake. And again, it crosses borders. It doesn't think about holding and restricting value. And let's think about that for a second. I believe in a few years, we're going to look back and say, really, we tried to hold value, which is now just data, ones and zeros, just like information is. We tried to restrict it within borders. Think about that for a second. Right now, we believe information should be free. Information is ones and zeros. It's data. We believe it should be out there. Everybody should have access to information, general public information. But we still say within borders, and governments still believe that it should be locked within there. So I believe in a few years that's really going to change. How's my time check here? Yeah, okay. So that's really the disruption. Is anybody who is sitting between individuals doing things and not providing tons of value or amazing levels of value, it's going to get pushed aside. Technology is replacing the middlemen. It's replacing different providers in many different sectors. The gentleman talked about what it's going to do to law. And with the introduction of smart contracts, something we introduced with Ethereum a few years ago, whereby you can now code up pretty much laws. I mean, it's not something that's really enforceable now, or not something that's it's on the horizon, but still not quite there yet. But you can literally have a developer codes up, let's say, a will, okay? And the will could be instructed to distribute digital assets. Like everything's turning digital, so you can move digital assets. And it says, if this happens, if there's a certain data that comes into this contract, this smart contract, automatically do this, 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 and this. And think about the amount of people that can bypass, or amount of layers that can happen, where instantly, if the contract says, let's say Bloomberg now is sending in data on people that are passing away. Bloomberg sends, this person passed away, send this asset to this person, send this asset to person, do this, do this, do this. It can happen instantly. Insurance contracts, same thing. It rains a certain amount in an area. A policy can say, okay, well, we got the data fed in that it said it did this. Let's distribute the policy holder what they're owed. We'll do it right away. Think about all the people that's going to potentially bypass. But I'd like to say, people come up to me and say, aren't you scared at the amount of jobs and things that are going to be disappearing because of this? And I think just like the internet, the amount of sectors that are going to emerge, the amount of value and services that are going to come from these technologies is really what we should be looking at. It's what we should be looking at here in Canada. I think we have an amazing opportunity to grab hold of these technologies, to become world leaders, to define where it's going, to ensure we're not heavily regulating these amazing inventions or technologies that I believe will have 99.9% of good things happening from it and value created, and very small amount of bad things. It's the same thing with the internet. People said, it's only used for this or only used for that, but back in the day, but look at it now. So I think my time's up now, and I'll be on a panel a little bit later on, I'm sure, to answer some questions, but thank you everybody for coming. Thanks for Gowling for having me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.